Okay. Yes. Okay. Thanks. Good morning. I am happy to see you all here, especially several new faces. My name is Margie Bolak. I am your service leader today. Welcome to the University Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Remember to silence your devices. In case we need emergency exits, there's an exit right behind you that goes out to the Memorial Garden through these two doors to your left and behind me. And remember, if you're not feeling well, thank you, do not come here. I had some kind of nasty virus last week, and I was sure I was never going to see any of you again. So if you feel like that, don't come. Let's get started with committee moments. And while we're waiting for everybody to come up here, I'm going to jump right in front. No, go ahead, David.
Go ahead. It's all right.
If you haven't signed up, we still have some seats available for Adult Night Out on February 8th. We're going to the SAC Comedy Club at 7 o'clock. Before then, we'll be meeting at Cucina Pizza and Bar right across the street from SAC Comedy Club. If you want to join in, there are some seats left. Let me know.
Improv is great. I can promise you. David McElroy, tomorrow night, we're having the men's group a little bit earlier in the month. So it's tomorrow night here at the church, 6:30. It's potluck or bring your own. And if you want information about it and don't know anything about it, see me afterwards.
And women's group is meeting this week too. On Friday night, we're going to have Galentine Games Night. So if you would like to come and play some games and eat some food, come and join us.
Hi, I'm Melanie. On behalf of D&D, because John's not here yet, D&D is canceled today. The current dungeon master is sick, so they have heeded the request to keep their drums to themselves.
Good morning, Laura Owens, Social Action Committee. I just wanted to remind everybody that I put together a resource guide post-election called Hope, Healing, and Action that's in the notable news, but it kind of is a little bit buried. But it has articles on how to cross the divide, how to kind of work through some strong emotions. It also has action-oriented things that you can do. So please try to look for that. And if you have any questions about it or you want to possibly add something nonpartisan to it, let me know. Thanks.
Wow, that's a great segue. Well, it's actually absolutely related to what Laura just stated, and it's her resource guide. It's a great thing that she has helped organize for UUU. What I also wanted to state, we're going to have more information as time goes on in it. For example, the surprise that happened this past week, with some people probably not getting their benefits and stuff. So if you don't know where to go to or who to call, we'll have information on there for that. Also recruiting as well. Remember our service last week about 6 degrees of freedom, and we all know somebody that knows somebody that knows something, right? And we have a lot of talent in this congregation. So I'm asking, if you have something to offer, if you have a talent to provide, please let me know. And we're going to put it into the resource guide. For example, if you know how to grow vegetables and fruits and stuff, we're going to put that in as well into the resource guide. If you know how to build something, art, we also want to have joy as well. And so anything you can think of, it doesn't matter. Come talk to me, and we'll see how we can fill up that resource guide with beautiful things as well as helpful information to how to, help each other out. And if you know anything about medicine and science and people that are willing to provide certain services pro bono, in a sense, free, to help other people in need, also let me know. Okay? Thank you very much.
And speaking of people in need, you know that many people at UCF, so close to us, seems like they're college students. They should have it all, right? Well, they don't all. Some of them are struggling as well, and we are still collecting for Knight's Pantry. I took a huge box over earlier this week, and I'm sorry the box was not there today, but people left stuff anyway, so thank you for that. It's back.
Hi, Lori Hospitality. I want to remind everybody there's the potluck today, and there's no excuse for not coming. Forgot to bring a dish? We've got enough. You didn't have time to cook? We still got enough. Please come and stay and enjoy and have the company. I will give more instructions at the end of service on how we're going to work this. Let's see. I guess that's it. Anyone else?
I just want to add, I have not seen Laura's guide yet, the resource guide. I'm going to check it out on Notable News because the way you described it sounds like something I need, how to cross the divide. And if you've been coming at least a couple of weeks and you're not getting Notable News yet, let me know so we can make sure that you can get our weekly newsletter, jam-packed full of good information. My opening words are from Joseph Campbell, his book, The Power of Myth. I'll bet you we have some Joseph Campbell fans out here. You must have a room or a certain hour or so a day where you don't know what was in the newspapers that morning. You don't know who your friends are. You don't know what you owe anybody. You don't know what anybody owes to you. This is a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is the place of creative incubation. At first, you may find that nothing happens there, but if you have a sacred place and use it, something eventually will happen. Our opening music is hymn number 88, Calm Soul of All Things. Please rise if you are willing and able.
Yes, so we'll get a one-phrase introduction, I guess. Come, soul of all things, make it mine to feel amid the city's jar. There abides a peace of thine. I did not make and cannot mar. Thou wilt to neither strive nor cry, the power to fear with others' care. Come ye more, nor let me die before I have begun to
Thank you, Gary. Today, our chalice lighter is, guess who? Is Chase. Chase is 14. His pronouns are he and him. His joy is he has new shoes. Do you have them on? Yes. Yes, those are nice. Here we go. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Thank you, Chase. And now we state our affirmation that we make to each other every week. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. So, again, a special welcome to any visitors. If this is your first time here, you need to come a few times because we're a lay-led congregation. About once a month, we have Reverend Kathy speak to us, a real firecracker. We are lucky to have her. She's very inspiring. The rest of the time, we have people from academia, we have people from different faiths, we have people from our own congregation who speak to us. And not only our speakers, but another reason to come is mostly, I think, our congregation itself. They are such friendly people, and the more you get to know them, everyone hides their light under a bushel here. There are so many fascinating people, so if you are a visitor, please stay for potluck. There's always too much food, and that's when you can really go kick those bushels off of those lights, get to know people, and share some about yourself too. So yes, you're all welcome. I believe it's now time for joys and concerns. Is this working? It is. So, this is the time we get up and share our joys and our sorrows with the people that we love and know. Remember, this is going out on the internet.
I just wanted to publicly thank Lorraine for taking me to cataract surgery on Thursday. She gave up a whole half of her day because you have to stay there and be there to drive me home. So I was very grateful for that. And I just wanted to thank the whole congregation. I was supposed to be greeter this morning, and I got hung up doing 100 different things, and because of cataract surgery and a crazy week, I totally spaced on it. But there was always a backup, and I just want to say thank you all for such wonderful support.
Greetings, greetings. On March 1st, Marilyn and I are going to do a show here called Love Letters. It is a benefit for the church. We are inviting the public, but we would like for you all to come, of course. We would like you to invite people to come. The more the merrier, that way the church makes more money. And of course, we shine our lights on stage as well.
Right. We come out from under the bushel. Big time.
Big time. So we do have like 40 of these to, if anyone would, in their neighborhood would like to distribute or put them up somewhere, we would appreciate it. And if you could talk about it, if you want more information on it, of course we can give you more information. It's kind of contained here, but you know, we've done it a few times, so we're really excited about it. I think you'll really enjoy it.
And
it's also an event on Facebook. Go ahead.
and food and drinks are available for donation.
Yes.
So please start telling friends and family and acquaintances and everyone you know now, because as we all know, our weekends can book up. So please spread the word.
March 1st.
You can find the link in Notable News. The QR code is there to go ahead and buy your tickets if you haven't already done that. And thanks.
All right. I have a joy. My name is Allie. Joy and a semi-concern. So, biggest joy is today is my mother's birthday, Jill. And our semi-concern is we brought like shortcake kind of things for dessert. They taste great, but not quite as what we expected. So maybe close your eyes and say yum. But they taste better than they look. Thank you.
I bet they're fabulous. People are always critical of their own cooking.
They have multiple. Hi, for all of you solar nerds out there, if you understand OUC's peak shift that's coming up in 6 months or 5 months, could you explain it to me, please? Because they're changing the way you get benefit from your solar on your roof, and it can affect what we get back for what we paid.
My joy is I got new shoes.
So last Saturday, I woke up feeling very sick, and I know a lot of people are sick, and I'm getting over the cold. I still can't really sing, but crossing my fingers, my voice will come back. Anyway, the concern was not just I was sick, but I have chronic heart rhythm issues. It's episodic, it comes and goes, and it always comes on when I get sick. So I was having the heart rhythm issues and being sick. And then I thought, I have a new medication to take. So I took this new medication, and it worked really well for the heart rhythm. However, I had the worst side effects ever. And at one point in the middle of the night, I woke up, and I was feeling really confused. Like, I just felt kind of relaxed, but like, I knew there's something wrong, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I'm like, just think. Like, oh yeah, I took that medication. And then I looked around and I realized I was lying on my back on the bathroom floor because I had actually passed out. And then I got up and I vomited, and then I had visual hallucinations. So I think maybe the dosage was too high or something. But anyway, if you have heart rhythm problems and medication issues, we can talk about it.
Melanie, I have actually two joys. The first one actually happened in December. So as many of you know, my brother died about 4 years ago, and he was cremated, but my sister-in-law took a while, which was fine, to figure out where she was going to bury him. And she finally made a decision, and so he was buried in the town that he lived in Micanopy in December. So I'm really grateful now that there's a place that I can go to visit him, because we didn't for a few years. And my other joy is that there's someone else in my family who's having a birthday. I'm very excited because I haven't been able to celebrate their birthday with them for a few years in a row because they were away at college. But now they're with me now, so I'm really excited.
Morning, my name is John Blodgett. Actually, I'm just visiting from Titusville, from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sangerville and Dover-Foxcroft, north central Maine, and have a daughter named Jill. So that's another reason. But the joy I think I really wanted to present is my cousin actually just bought a book, or he wrote a book. She wrote a book called Madeline's Journey, and it's really about the masculine and feminine energies moving together in a more balanced way. So she looks about all of our life and how it kind of interacts with our lives today, but kind of focusing on those Madeline or Miriam, which was actually Jesus' companion. And they had 7 women who moved from the Judea area to Gaul in France. And all about how those several, or 8 women, I guess, 9 with Sarah because she had 1 child, from Jesus, and how how the women really are now kind of trying to make this thing more balanced between the masculine and feminine. So I'm really proud of this cousin, Renee Blodgett, Madeline Journey. Look at that on Amazon.
So as you know, I also live in Titusville, very red. Yesterday, the resistance group I belong to, the Black Cats, we went to Harry T. Moore Center. If you haven't been there, you need to go. First of all, the place is beautiful, and I really learned a lot. You know, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in New York City. So to me, Florida wasn't the South, but you know what? It was. And I learned a lot yesterday. So if you ever want to go, I'll be happy to go with you because I really enjoyed it.
What was the name of the place?
It's the Harry T. Moore Center. It's in Mims. It's about 1.5 miles from my house, so if you come, I'll cook for you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Rachel Wisner. My joy is that my younger sister, who just had her birthday a couple days ago, has been an artist her entire life since she could hold a pencil or pen or crayon. And this next weekend, she's having her first art show in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm going to fly up and be there and surprise her.
No one send her the link to this. I have a concern. I don't know, just everything that's happened last week, last 2 weeks, has just been really stressful, thinking through who do I know that receives these benefits, who do I know who's on Medicaid or Medicare, and what's affected, and the ground kind of shifting constantly. What is actually happening? What is not happening? What is people saying happening versus, yeah, it's, super discombobulating, and, just specifically thinking about Mallory. She hasn't been here for a while because she's been taking care of her newborn, Tristan. But, Addie depends on these benefits because of her diabetes, and it's just been really scary this last week. So if you can reach out to your Congress people, I know John and I's representative is Corey Mills. I don't know if that's everyone's or what that looks like, but figure out what to say something. It's hard because it's always changing, and it's hard to know what the ask is when there's so much misinformation. But generally, my concern is all of that. So, yeah.
I wanted to go next because I wanted to segue into Mallory Rogers did a YouTube chat post. Addie has 2 joys, little Addie. She went to the Home Depot Kids Workshop yesterday. And today, she is going bowling with local Type 1 diabetes organization.
I wanted to play off what Allison was talking about. I guess my concern is what everybody else's concern probably is that there's a lot that's happened. There's a lot of pain and worry and wondering. But I did want to especially point out the ICE raids going on. That's the heaviest on my heart right now. If you know anybody who has concerns or threats, there are organizations, I should have them at the top of my head, but come to me, I will look them up because I posted them on Facebook and I can't remember all of them. But it's really important that we support people who are afraid right now. Also important for people that are very afraid that they don't get into a place like my husband, not blaming, just pointing out, that said you can't do anything, why bother, I'm just bitter, blah, blah, blah. I think it's good to get to a place where you can resist in ways that make you feel okay. And if that means taking time off, or if that means doing whatever you need to do, but please don't get into a bitter, I'm not going to do anything place, because that's really bad for your health. So please, yes, resist, but peacefully, but do something.
So this is one of our joys and concerns from online. Stephen Hall mentioned last week that Hugo Scala had been hospitalized. He is in good spirits. He's going to be in rehab for a couple of weeks, but Pam also got sick in the meantime. So just please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And Evelyn voiced some of the same concerns that we heard from Allison. I know I spent most of Wednesday on what I call doom Zooms for my job, and it's scary times.
Hi, I have a joy. I went to Seoul, Korea for 5 days earlier, and I did go to lots of palaces and nice places, and I can show you pictures of this if you want. But the important thing is I went to a cat cafe. I went to a really nice cat cafe, and that's my joy. Thank you.
I have a concern and a joy. A minor concern is that my mother was in the hospital this past week. She fell twice, but everything's fine. She didn't break anything, and she's back at home. We're trying to figure out how we're going to give her 24/7 care. But, you know, God is good. So just to do a little Dionne Warwick and say a little prayer. Yeah. The young people are saying, "Who's Dionne Warwick?" And my joy is that it's you, this congregation, and this church, and for me finding you so many years ago. We are family. We're going to stick together, and we're going to get through this. And the reason I know is because, like I mentioned before, the talent that you all have, the love that you all bring. Shortly after the November 5th elections, I was just here, and Peter walked up to me and said, are you okay? I mean, I wasn't crying or anything, but he said, are you okay? And I can offer you some, consolation, whatever, and I can talk with you if you need it. And, I'm going to take you up on it. I've been needing it recently with everything's going on, but, you are my joy.
And I've got a joy. It's black sapote and carambola season, and so there's a box full of them over here. You probably have never had a black sapote. They don't market them here. It's a fruit from Central America. I have one here. And they call it chocolate pudding fruit, which is a big fat lie because it doesn't taste anything like chocolate pudding. But here's one that's ripe, and they have to be, when you take it home, you have to set it on your kitchen counter until it gets soft, like if you see, this is really squishy. And then it'll be ready to eat, and I took the top off, and it looks like chocolate pudding. Anyway, fun fruits to try. There you go. Help yourself. Exactly. And I forgot to welcome also our online visitors, and I'm sorry I can't share with you. But everybody turn around and wave to our online visitors. Glad you're with us also. Okay, put the fruit away. And now it is time for all ages. Here we go. Where do we want to put this? Right here? Right here. Okay. Sorry. Leave it alone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tay. I am your RE coordinator. So this is my first time doing Time for All Ages in person. But this Time for All Ages was inspired by Toolbox for Hard Times by Tara Humphreys, found on the UUA website. So just want to give her a shout out because I thought it was a really unique idea. So as you see, I'm kind of standing in front of it, so I'll move the mic. I am still sorting through way too many boxes of way too many things and have yet to find my proper toolbox. So I brought this makeshift one instead. And I brought with me a few tools like a hammer. Can anyone give me an example of what a hammer might be used for? To install nails? What? Hammer in the morning? To remove nails. Oh, it's okay. I can put it back in the box, but thank you. Hang a picture. Open a coconut. There are a lot of unique purposes for a hammer. Now, I also brought a wrench. What might a wrench be used for? Fix a toilet. Opening things. Closing things. Tightening things. Another tool that has a lot of different purposes. Now, the people in the front can probably see that there's probably some unconventional things in my toolbox. This, I didn't mark the front, unfortunately. This is a sketchbook. It's my sketchbook. So why might this be a tool for me? Stress reliever. To draw conclusions, meditations, creative expression, reflection. Yeah. Sort my thoughts. Write a story. There's a lot of ways I can use my sketchbook as a tool. For me, it clears my mind. I can use it to communicate with others, and it's used to practice my skills as an artist. Tools come in many forms with many different purposes. Sometimes we need a tool, like a hammer, to help us fix a physical object. Sometimes we need tools to help us cope with emotional and spiritual issues. The beauty of a toolbox, even one falling apart like mine, is that it allows us to visually see all the tools we have at our disposal. It is an easy way to find what we are looking for, or even better, use the tools we already have and apply them to creative and out-of-the-box solutions. We saw that a lot with the hammer. And if none of the tools you have readily available work for the problem you are trying to solve, you can always ask someone for help. They may be more experienced with the tool you are trying to utilize, but they also might have different tools for you to try. No two toolboxes are the same, and there are plenty of people more than happy to help. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tay. We are a generous congregation, and starting today, we're sharing 40% of our loose plate offering with the Orlando Center for Justice, and I want to read you their mission statement. After hearing private attorneys having to turn away individuals who could not afford private representation and having almost nowhere to refer them, and seeing a legal aid organization having to wind down and close their doors, leaving a void in the community it previously served, 3 women, frustrated by seeing clients alone in court, decided our city could be the home to a solution. With the support of a team of community attorneys willing to serve on our board, OCJ was born. Our goal was to create a system that would help keep our doors open even if funding was reduced, help close the access to justice gap in Florida, and help those in need to tell their story. Now we hope we can inspire future lawyers to do the same. Sounds like a very worthy group for us to share our plate with. And as we are passing the baskets, do we have our kids? As the basket is passed, Alicia will be playing music by Francis Poulenc for us. Thank you, Alicia. That was beautiful. It's time to sing out our children. We love you and bless you and send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. I mentioned earlier about the talents we have in our congregation, and today we are benefiting from the talents of both Allison and John, who are going to speak to us today about their weekly practice of Sabbath, something I imagine we could all benefit from. So welcome, you two.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. John, you don't need to hide behind the screen.
It's her turn.
So, John and I have been talking about giving a talk like this for a while. We've been practicing a Sabbath for now a few years. And not gonna lie, it's been hard the last few weeks thinking about talking about this. The world's so crazy. How can we talk about rest? Is that self-indulgent? Is that, whatever? But as I was preparing for this presentation with John, we felt, okay, actually maybe this is exactly the time that we needed to be giving this presentation. So, a radical prescription for rest, unpacking the transformative power of the Sabbath. First, we're going to just talk about our respective stories, then we'll talk about what the Sabbath is from a theological perspective, how we do it every week, and then if you're interested, how you might be able to incorporate some of these principles into your life. So, something to know about me, I wasn't raised Jewish. I was raised Christian. I had no connection to the Sabbath. I thought that was some old, antiquated thing that superstitious people do. But in undergrad, I started taking some Jewish studies classes, and in the process, I discovered that actually my family was Jewish. I had many relatives that died in the Holocaust, and the ones that survived were so transformed by their experience that they vowed to never talk about it again and to become Christian. And I didn't learn about my own Jewish heritage until I just asked my Oma, my grandmother, what was this like when you were growing up? Because she was born during all of this. What do you remember about your dad, your grandpa? She just started crying, and it was the first time anyone had ever asked her about it. The signs were all there. Her name is Gertruda Stein. But I didn't know anything about it, so, and neither did my family really. So that started a journey of being really committed to unpacking that history, about reconnecting with Jewish spirituality, because I never wanted, this hate to win. The idea of thousands of years of family history just going away in an instant like that just made me sick to my stomach. So reconnecting to the Sabbath is one of the ways that I, honor that and reconnect with these relatives I never got to know. I never got to see them under a chuppah or anything like that. And so that's something, first off to bring up. In undergrad, one of my really good friends that I went through Jewish studies with, her name was Hannah, and she was kind of going through her own journey with Judaism, eventually becoming a Orthodox Chabad Jew, and moving to New York to live in a Jewish community. She lived in a house that was full of Jewish women who were all kind of waiting to get married, all this matchmaking stuff. And she invited me up to visit her and experience the weekend with her. And one of the parts of that was experiencing a Sabbath with her, which I found interesting. I am always one to like to go to the mosque or different events from different religious communities, basically. So I was like, okay, this is another interesting experience in my tool belt. Why not? On one hand, it was a really scary proposition because we'll talk about it. An Orthodox Sabbath means a lot off your plate. No phone use, no car riding, no cleaning, no turning off and on light switches, no even ripping toilet paper. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, but it was a great experience, one that I was really nervous about going into, one that I felt, oh, is this extremely self-indulgent, this idea that you can disconnect, when the rest of the world is still going on? Or is it super self-emaciating? You're, depriving yourself of all these things that maybe bring you joy. What do you mean I can't play an instrument? What do you mean I can't write something? Why would you restrict yourself in this way? So it was something that really I had to just experience to be able to appreciate. And I found that in that first Sabbath I did many years ago, wow, as someone who values productivity, values making use of every minute, it was really, really mind-altering, life-transforming. Suddenly, 24 hours wasn't 24 hours. It felt like much longer. An hour doesn't equal an hour anymore. It was just like this very deep communal experience. And I can go on and on about it forever, but just know that that first one totally changed my life. And ever since then, John and I have been practicing a Sabbath. It started as once a month, because that's what I thought I could do. Then it became twice a month, and now it's every week. We've been doing every week for a year and 2 months. I remember, a year and 2 months. And I'm excited to share more about the details of that. And so from my perspective, it was much more of a spiritual journey. John was coming at it from a different angle, which I think is interesting. So, John, do you want to talk about your stuff? Wrong. There you go.
That's my story. Hello. So, as always, Allison has a more spiritual, personal connection to the practice of the Sabbath with her Jewish heritage. Mine was listening to a podcast. And I listened to this podcast, and this guy, his name's Ezra Klein, maybe some of you have listened to his podcast. He had an episode about his experience with the Sabbath. And I was listening to this, and I was like, well, that just seems just very interesting. The fact that there is a day every week where you have rules for how you rest. And that kind of seemed like a contradiction to me. Because I thought the whole point of resting is that's when you take a break from rules. That's the whole point. I spend the rest of my week being told what to do. You're telling me I'm adding another day where now I gotta put myself through a whole new slate of rules. And I guess there's an arrogance to me, and I mean, I'm an arrogant person in general, but there is perhaps an argument there where I had an arrogance that I thought I knew how to rest. And I never took a second to ask, all right, well, where did that come from? Where did this idea of where to rest come from? I mean, I'll ask you guys right now. Now, I'm not going to judge you guys publicly. But what I will say, all right, let's walk through your typical Saturday day. What do you guys do on Saturday? How do you rest? Sleep in. You sleep in. That's good. I like that one. Yeah, lays around, meditate. That's a good one. You play with the dog? Does anyone here watch TV? Anyone listen to music? Anyone play a video game? There we go. See, we got the young ones here too, so that's good. So, and for me, a lot of it was media consumption. I, in a very contradictory way, believed in a hyper-productivity. And I wasn't too good at it. But I felt like I had an obligation. I'm like, all right, now I have my time. This is when I'm supposed to be doing my hobbies. You're supposed to have hobbies. You're supposed to learn. I have a whole 48 hours to not do this thing. This is when I get to do the things that are supposed to be hobbies, things that I do in my free time. I should learn how to animate. I should learn how to draw. I should be playing an instrument. I should be trying to get good at a craft on the side. That is the obligation that I have. And the Sabbath, through specifically the one that we've practiced, opened up an idea to me that I actually never asked myself before, which is, what am I working for? What's the point? If I'm going through every week 40 hours a week of working, and I go home and I'm just working on something else, what am I actually working towards? What is the point? What does it mean just to be? What is that process? And I never had that asked that question before. That wasn't something that I had ever even considered, what it means to just exist, what it means to not produce anything on a day, to not maintain, to not work, to not labor. The idea that maybe it's okay to not participate in something for a time. Maybe that's even the problem, is an over participation and over productivity that existed even when I thought I was resting. And when we started practicing this, that's when it really started to hit me. I was surprised at how long a day could be, which didn't really experience before. When you can't watch TV, when you can't listen to music, when you can't cook, when you can't clean, that one's hard. When you can't even clean, you're like, I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at a pile of dirty dishes and I'm not allowed to clean them. And it's a question of like, well, what is the point? What is resting? When all is said and done, what am I supposed to do? And the thing is, that was the wrong question to ask. It's what you're not supposed to do. When I was practicing the Sabbath for the first time, it's changed how I look at rest. It's changed about what I think I want my life to look like. It has changed my idea of what a weekend could be if we did change a way of culture. It's something that existed for centuries in America. Maybe in not the best way, because we had like legal mandates on stuff, and that's probably not the best way to get the Sabbath to be participated with. But if you look at laws even back in more in the Northeast, you'll see that you weren't even allowed to buy alcohol on certain days. You weren't allowed to do certain things in certain cities on certain days. That's a legacy of the Sabbath in a more legalistic form, but we've lost a lot of that. And I do think we have, I think particularly for people who are younger, that have grown up with the internet, that have grown up with technology kind of being all encompassing, that productivity is a constant force. If you're not working, you're consuming something. If you're not consuming something, you better be producing something. And if you're not producing something, what's wrong with you if you're not doing the other two? And it was a very difficult transition for me to think about, well, what does it look like when I'm not producing, consuming, or purchasing, or working? Like, what does this actually look like? What's the point? I've read novels now. That's insane. I have magazines. Have you all read? How long has it been since you read a magazine? I love them. They're great. I didn't even know, they're actually quite nice. It's like a blog, but there's no pop-ups. It's amazing. To me, it's an incredible novelty, and it's like the best thing to do on that. I have little books, 100 pages long. You go read them through them on a Sabbath, they're great. It's allowed me to appreciate things like seasons. I never appreciate seasons. I appreciate walking around our neighborhood in ways that we didn't used to. We have picnics in our garden every Saturday morning because you have no plans on purpose. We've had family, because we go out, you'll learn the rules in a second, but we're not allowed to use our phones. No one's allowed to text us. You know what's crazy? My family knocks on my door like, hey, we couldn't reach you. We want to say hi. We were in the area. How long has it been since you've had a family member just come up to your house and say, hey, how are you doing? It doesn't happen. I mean, to me, it doesn't happen. I don't know, it might say more about me than you, but it's like, it has spiritually changed the way that we navigate the world. It's changed how we interact with our family. It's changed our way with how we even see seasons in our calendars, and it has been a transformative experience. So I'm going to give the floor back to Allison. She's going to break down the theological parts to it, but I think we've got it. Trust me when I say this is one of the most important things in my life right now.
Yes. So we're talking about Sabbath, kind of alluded to some of the things we don't do on the Sabbath and whatnot, but what are we actually talking about here? I have 3 quotes here on the screen from the, I guess, Christian Bible. We have some from the Torah and some not, but basically this is just showing that the Sabbath has very, very deep roots. On the origin of it basically is that as God creates the world, even God rests. Takes a whole day. This, being that can do anything, literally anything they want, they choose, with their final, most culminative action to rest. The grandest part of creation. That's pretty amazing. And then when, this actually gets fleshed out into in Torah law is that on this day you don't work. That's the most important aspect of the Sabbath. You don't work on the Sabbath, but neither do your kids, neither do your servants, neither do your animals, specifically mentioned. You can't just have your animals do stuff. Yeah, so no riding on your horse, but no, basically it's about, this is a collective thing. This isn't just an individual thing where nobody is getting a leg up on anyone else. We are all participating in this moment. And this idea that time transcends space is going to come up a lot more. This isn't about material collection. This is about deepening time. And this debate on how to practice the Sabbath right is something that expands into the Christian Bible through the New Testament, where Jesus sort of gets into arguments with the religious leaders of his day, where they're arguing about, what is the purpose of the Sabbath? Is it designed for man, or is man designed for the Sabbath? And point is, this is a really important theme that goes throughout a lot of religious tradition. So the Sabbath happens from sundown to sundown. We start doing it on Friday night, and we end on Saturday night every week. And that, the times of that changes throughout the year. So that's something that we notice now more. Is like, the minutes are slowly moving later. The days are getting, So that's something important to recognize, because in the Jewish conception, and we practice a mostly Jewish Orthodox Sabbath, the day starts with the sun setting instead of the sun rising the next day. So basically, there are 39 categories of things that in the traditional sense you're not supposed to do or participate in, which are called the 39 melachot. So some of these things might make immediate sense. You shouldn't be harvesting. You shouldn't be carrying heavy things. But it goes deeper than that. Basically, you're not supposed to create anything new or destroy anything, which carries through lots of different categories here. So starting a flame or extinguishing a flame are pretty important in this list. You're not supposed to slaughter anything. You're not supposed to, plant things or reap the results of things you have planted in the past. But some of these things, if you read them, kind of are from an older perspective. You're not supposed to spin or dye or weave, things that we wouldn't do today, but have modern implications for people that study this thing. So in the modern world, things we don't do, work, right? That's the big one. I'm not writing any articles. I'm not answering any emails on the Sabbath. We're not using our phones. So before the sun sets on Friday, we text anyone, that, like our parents or siblings, we're going offline, love you. And they know that we're going offline at that point. You're not supposed to turn off and on electronics, which includes for us light switches. So whatever the lights are at before we start is what they're staying at. And that is one of these, a lot of these things might appear arbitrary and silly, and they kind of are, and that's sort of the point. You're marking this time is different than any other time. We are creating this holy space, and this is one of the ways that we do that. I turn on our sound machine beforehand. I turn off all the lights in our bedroom so that when it's time to go to bed, we're just walking in there. It's all set up already. We often light candles before the Sabbath, so you're not supposed to blow them out. So we have little Sabbath short candles that burn out while we're eating dinner and whatnot. You're not supposed to clean or do household chores. Something I really appreciate about the Sabbath is it honors traditionally female coded labor. It sees that is valuable, and it is labor. So you're not supposed to do any of those things. You're not supposed to cook. You're not supposed to be folding laundry or sorting things. Yeah, exactly. So that's really important. We don't use our car in the Sabbath. We're not driving anywhere, which allows us to enjoy our immediate surroundings and walk around and run into neighbors and run into people we know, which is pretty cool. You're not supposed to, go through intense exercise, not supposed to write. So there's a lot of things, you're discouraged from doing. And of course, people who practice the Sabbath in different ways have different rules, different ways that they do it, but this is how we do it. Things you're encouraged to do, sleep in as late as you can. We often will wake up and go back to bed for another 2 hours. You're supposed to enjoy the company of your family and friends. Leisurely walks, that's a big part of our Sabbath. We cook ahead of time and prep the house ahead of time, make sure everything is clean and nice ahead of time. And sometimes that means working hard before the Sabbath starts so that you can enjoy that entire day without doing any of that. And then, sometimes you plan things ahead. If I've had many times a friend say, hey, I want to see you, I'm in town. And I say, hey, you can drop by on the Sabbath. We'll be home. So just knock on the door whenever you want. 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I don't care. Which is not my personality, guys, but on the Sabbath it is. So that's kind of some examples of how this gets translated for us. And yeah, so there's this tension between space and time. Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote this amazing book called The Sabbath. He was an amazing person, civil rights advocate, just amazing person. And I have a quote here that I'm going to read for you that talks about this tension. To gain control of the world of space is certainly one of our tasks. The danger begins when in gaining power in the realm of space, we forfeit all aspirations in the realm of time. There is a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be, not to own, but to give, not to control, but to share, not to subdue, but to be in accord. Life goes wrong when the control of space, the acquisition of things of space, becomes our sole concern. So when we're concerned about making money, hyperproductivity, being the most skilled person we possibly can become, doing instead of being, basically, possessing instead of just surrendering yourself to something greater. Yeah, I love this quote. It's an amazing book. And I also just wanted to mention, we're talking a lot about Orthodox, Jewish, whatever. Everyone practices Sabbath different ways for people who do practice a Sabbath. It's not just Jewish people that are practicing a Sabbath, although I know many people that take a tech Sabbath. So the only thing they do is they don't look at social media or their email on that day. And that's a thing that a lot of us can do and is really probably helpful for our brains. So there's that. Up until modern day, a lot of Christians practiced a pretty regimented Sabbath. If you ask my grandmother, she grew up with pretty strict rules. She was, Dutch Reformed Christian, but she was practicing very similar Sabbath to what we practice today. And you may have heard Seventh-day Adventists practice a Sabbath, but they practice it on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. There's a whole tension, too, about should this be done on Saturdays or Sundays, and there's a whole history, legal, whatever. But it is a broader. There's a lot of different groups that practice this. So, John, do you want to explain what a typical Sabbath looks like for us?
So, I think one way to talk about the Sabbath, I wanted to also clarify this too. Like, there were books on the Sabbath that, I really wanted to know more information about. And the best way for me to get information about a book is to gift it to Allison. Because she will tell me so much so fast about that book. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I got everything I wanted from this and half the effort. And half the effort. It's really a bargain. Some of you might have already thought about this too. They're like, all right, wait, if this was a real Sabbath, how'd you get pictures of the Sabbath, right? You wouldn't be allowed to use a camera. And to you, it'd be like, actually, this is kind of a fake Sabbath. This was a Sunday. We just happened to do a very similar thing on a Sunday once, so that's not technically a Sabbath. That's a simulation of what a Sabbath would look like, but it's not what the real thing is. I just want to be clear, because every time I'm like, they're going to know that look at this. Where did the camera come from? So, yeah, what does it look like in a day? So the day starts with us waking up once, looking at the time and realizing we don't need to do anything, going back to sleep, which is great. I love that. And because you're not allowed to schedule things, or you shouldn't really schedule things, there is no reason to rush. I think it's very similar to how I hear people describe early retirement. When you start being retired is what I've heard it's like. When you're like, oh wow, I don't have to go to work anymore. Time operates differently right off the bat. The idea of how a clock, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the hours and minutes happen right when you start seeing factory work and industrialism take off. This is older, this tradition, than industrialism. You start realizing hours and minutes are becoming more irrelevant as the day progresses. You're noticing that you can wake up and go back to sleep and maybe a couple hours pass, but it doesn't really make a difference because you're not going to do anything really except relax. You can go outside, enjoy nature, and that's usually what we do after that. We wake up eventually, and we go out to the kitchen. We're like, okay, we have this cold brew. There's a little jar with cold brew. We have to make coffee in advance. You can't turn on anything. You can't turn it because you can't bring a flame into the world. So you can't turn on TV unless the TV was already on before. I tried being a little smart with it once, and I set a timer on the TV, and I was like, well, if it turns off on its own and I set the timer, that's not me doing it. I mean, that's the TV. But you're playing with fire in a biblical sense, and it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. So we have a cold brew in the fridge. We have filters, and so our cold brew is our way of having coffee on the Sabbath. Because if I get caffeine withdrawals, there's not going to be any relaxing. It's going to be just awful. And so we mix that with some milk, and we go out to our garden, which, oh man, I love that garden so much now. We have a bread. We have a very Dutch breakfast, because, all Dutch people do for breakfast. I mean, we go overboard with it here. I mean, we don't need to, cook. They have bread and a few different spreads you put on it. That's breakfast. They're done. That's good. And that's what we do. We have a hazelnut spread. We have a peanut butter spread. We have kombucha. It's very vegan and it's very annoying, but that's just what we do. And that's just. We get to see insects. We get to see the seasons. We have a pair of binoculars now. We're in our bird watching era, and we're enjoying just looking at the seasons of birds. Right now, I think there's a lot of robins coming around right now, yeah. And we're like, oh wow, there's a new bird here. It's a robin. They don't like the bird feeder. I don't know what their deal is, but we see them. They just kind of move around it. But we have finches. No, not finches. What are they? They have titmouses, titmice. And then we have a woodpecker that's way too big for the bird feeder. We've got butterflies and bees and different kinds of bees and different flowers, and things don't all bloom in spring. Some things bloom in winter, some things bloom in winter. And I know this is obvious, but as someone who grew up chronically online and played a lot of video games and kind of only existed through media consumption, this was new to me, seeing the world in a more natural capacity, seeing seasons in Florida too. I didn't think they existed here, to be honest with you. I thought it was all just, it's either really hot or it's just there's some kind of polar cyclone, and then those are the two options, and then anything in between is it's okay. But no, there are seasons here, and they're very nice, and we're surrounded by oak trees, we're surrounded by nature, and we get to witness it, and you get to witness creation in a sense. And did you know, this is a weird one. There's a picture of a squirrel on there. This one blew my mind. They eat mushrooms. I didn't know that. They love mushrooms. We're looking at the squirrel. I was worried about the squirrel. I thought I was going to die. I was like, does this squirrel know? But no, we looked it up after the Sabbath, because you can't look it up at the moment, so you're kind of Nervous. You're like, I can't look this up right now, but I'm going to have faith that this squirrel knows what it's doing, and if it's not going to drop dead, we're good. And we're looking at this squirrel eating a mushroom. We're like, that's crazy. I didn't they ate mushrooms. And it sounds so boring describing it. And that's kind of the point, is that it is a very slowed down experience. We go to the Riverwalk. We walk around our city. And we happen to live in a walkable city. That's not available to everyone, but we do. And we go downtown. We see whatever event's going on there. You're not allowed to buy stuff. You're really not allowed to participate. You become what people see in a city, though. You become a part of it. You become, a good way to say it, a witness to what other people are doing, but you're not really someone who's partaking in the actions of anything, really. You are here to exist for the sake of, you're good enough just to exist. I'll say, I was raised very secular. I mean, a diet Catholic family. And so usually I needed secular arguments to do things. And so for me, the Sabbath was kind of complicated. But I do remember my brother-in-law, because he's a little nefarious, tried to get me to do work on the Sabbath once. And, secular arguments aren't going to stop him. And I will say the one, if nothing else, I know if you're atheist, this might convert you. when he comes up to me, he's like, well, why can't you do something today? It's all arbitrary, it's all anything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do the God card. He's like, God told me I can't do anything today. Like, because if you say you can't do anything because it's a rest day, well, that kind of sounds selfish. You know, like, oh, I'm resting just for me today. But you're like, well, God told me I can't do anything today. I'm going to make him mad. I'm going to make... All of a sudden, well, he's like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. You're like, I guess you can't do anything then. It's the ultimate appeal to authority for rest. What a way to get away from, like, you know, having to be, like, pushed around. And I am a fan in the secular argument for the Sabbath, because it does sound arbitrary. And I can come up with metrics and graphs of, like, personal satisfaction or something like that, yes. But there, I think, is an underestimated value to arbitrary rules for existing. Maybe that's even what culture is just a series of arbitrary actions we do to distinguish ourselves from people. I think that's what David Graeber talks about in The Dawn of Everything, about how tribes that are right next to each other arbitrarily use different devices just to distinguish themselves from other tribes. And this is something where, yeah, I have arbitrary rules for resting now that do seem to, like, not have a concrete metric in the sciences or a concrete metric in material world, but a lot of the material world metrics that we're given every day do come from companies, and they come from a mindset of hyper productivity, that everything you are supposed to do is either to increase the value of someone else's commodities, or it's to increase the value of your labor for someone to purchase later on. And a lot of the ideology that we currently swim in is antithetical to rest, in what it was traditionally known as before the Industrial Revolution. And that, to me, is the radical nature of this. This is a pre-industrial tradition that is largely incompatible with productivity and hyperproductivity. And in my personal opinion, is a radical shield and safeguard against falling victim to rapid consumption, to thinking that you're not good enough. There is something to, you are good enough, you deserve rest. Even God had to rest. So who are you really not to? You know, it's like, you think you're better than God? And when you look at it through this lens, this is a radical lens to think that, I mean, to really think that we're at a point now where we think to be productive is the default and rest is the exception. In fact, I think we're at a point now, largely, where rest is seen as a privilege. That reading is seen as a privilege. You know, I remember seeing, there was some conservative, I think it was Hillsdale University. If you know them, they're Hillsdale College. It's a conservative propaganda university. And one of the things that they described about college students, they were like, these college students, oh man, they're so privileged, you know, they have time to read books, you know what that does to people. Unlike the working class people, they don't have time to read books, so they're more authentic or something. And I thought that was really telling, because it's kind of saying the quiet part out loud, is the whole point is that you don't have time to think. The whole point is that you're endlessly reacting. You're endlessly trying to change and respond and react to everything that's happening around you. I made the joke recently to Allison. Well, not a joke, it's an analysis maybe. With the current administration, if you actually take a stance on everything the current administration is doing right now, you will turn into a contradictory person. You actually can't do it. Again, because if you do, because it's not like there is consistency. It's all inconsistent. It's all kind of wild. So when you feel like you take a position on everything that happens right now, the trap is that you're actually going to start contradicting yourself at some point. And if you never have a moment to sit down, to reflect on what is the point of all of this, why am I here, what do I deserve, and if you're not able to give that to yourself, it's really easy to just fall into madness and reactionary rhetoric in the same way that so many others have. This is not a cure, but it's like a Tums. And I would say, like, we all need Tums every once in a while, you know? You wouldn't want to live in a world without Tums. To me, that's what this has turned into. It is that moment of reflection. Yes, you're not checking out completely. You are not giving up. You're not throwing your hands in the air. You're just taking a nap so that you're rested when you come back. It's not lazy. That's the thing. Laziness. There's a book in that's so good word. Thank you, Paula. It's laziness is a very dangerous word, and that's Protestant work ethic language, and that is where you run into this sense of shame of not doing more, this sense of shame of having to be productive constantly. And there were religious people at the founding of this country and way before then that saw that as predatory, that saw that this idea of identifying people as lazy, as not deserving, as predatory, and practiced the Sabbath as a form to rebel against that. And it's largely gone now. Seventh-day Adventists do it. I think a lot of people during that period you're studying, whatever you would call that, the third awakening, what is it? When the Seventh-day Adventists appear? The 19th century. The 19th century. I'm the history teacher, too. That's the sad part. Once again, I give her the books to read, and it's just, yeah, great, yes. Where you start seeing a resurgence in, Sabbath practices, too, and I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening when industry is also starting, when you start seeing clocks take over people's lives, when you start seeing time take over people's lives. The idea that we say the word 6:35 now is insane. If you talk to your great-great-grandparents and you said, I'm doing this at 6:35, they wouldn't even know what you're talking about. That wasn't a thing. But now it is, and now it's everything. Now we have calendars that are constantly moving online to manage our time and stuff like that. And this is antithetical to that. Did I miss anything? No? All right, come on. Okay, I'm going to rant for too long.
Yes, human being, not a human doing. Just quick note here. Going on our walks is a big part of the Sabbath. The first time I saw a magnolia tree blossom and smelling that fresh, oh my gosh, I really can't describe how amazing that was. There's this amazing book called The Philosophy of Walking by a French philosopher, Frédéric Gross, and he talks about how walking is connected to a lot of these same themes that we're talking about here, and this can be, incorporated into any day of your life. But I just wanted to read this for you. Slowness, meaning slow walking. Slowness means cleaving perfectly to time. So closely that the seconds fall one by one, drop by drop, like the steady dripping of a tap on stone. This stretching of time deepens space. It is one of the secrets of walking, a slow approach to landscapes that gradually renders them familiar, like the regular encounters that deepen friendship. This is so beautiful. Walking through our city has made us one with the city. When you start appreciating nature around you, you become one with nature. I know this sounds kind of hippy-dippy maybe to some of us, but it really is true. It really is true. So John, if anyone, come up here. If people are interested in, adopting some of this into their lives, obviously, it looks different if you have young kids or, you're taking care of a parent that needs round-the-clock assistance. What should they consider?
So, you need to create realistic boundaries if you were to implement this into your life. We didn't do it every week when we started. We did it once a month. And then we did it once every 2 weeks, and then eventually we loved it so much, we valued it so much that we found a way to make it work every week. Now, that doesn't mean we start right at sundown sometimes. Sometimes we might have a play that we're going to, or we're going out to dinner with family. And the way that we describe the Sabbath in text is that we describe this as a place, like we're going on the Sabbath. As soon as we're in the Sabbath, we're unreachable, basically through technology. If you knock on the door, then we'll see you. But that's what happens. Like once you enter it, then you're in that space, and that's when light switches don't turn off. That's everything around us signals that we're on it. And then when we're out of it, that's when we go back in. When we go in, when we go out can change depending on what is happening on Friday or on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll end early or end later or something like that.
And, when we've decided that we don't let this stop us from traveling, if we're traveling, we probably don't practice the same way. We've never practiced the same way. But maybe we're not accessing our phone, or you kind of work with it. There's been times where I've had family health emergencies where I say I'm going to check my phone at one point halfway through the day, just to see if there's any crazy notifications, and then I'm going to leave it be. When Mallory was about to have her kid, I said, hey, at 11, I'm going to check to see if you need me, because one of the cardinal rules of the Sabbath, too, is if the Sabbath prevents you from saving a life, no go. Exactly. So if there's anything to do with new life or the ending of a life, no go. So there is flexibility in there, is my point. What else, John?
I don't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
In our experience, I don't recommend it. I think it is something that, at a minimum, should be with a partner. I have no experience doing it with a family. I know in the experience that you were in, it was basically an entire community of people participating at the same time. We don't have that kind of community right now. But I do think practicing the rules that we're talking about up here, if you live by yourself and you don't have a partner with you, could be very isolating, and maybe isolate you further when your gateway to community is through technology and through other things. I don't want to take that away from people. So that would be my advice there.
Mm-hmm.
Do it with someone else.
Yeah, adjust it as you need to. Plan ahead. We've talked about cleaning ahead of time, letting people know that you're going to be offline. Our world is not designed to do this necessarily. So don't be afraid if people push back and ask you, why the heck would you do that? Do you hate yourself or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a process. It doesn't happen all at once. We have a few recommendations if you're interested. I quoted from both The Sabbath and A Philosophy Walking. Those are amazing books. The Sabbath Worlds, that's the third icon there, was written, I believe, by Abraham Joshua Heschel's granddaughter, and talks about her experience with the Sabbath and her memories with her grandfather. Amazing, amazing books. John, you want to talk about the other two?
The Ezra Klein Show episode is The Sabbath and the Art of Rest. It's a great episode. It's a great introduction to maybe even like some more secularish arguments for the Sabbath if you're not into spiritual arguments for it. And then another book that I got is Laziness Does Not Exist. It's not specifically about the Sabbath.
It doesn't even really mention the Sabbath, does it?
It only mentions
Once.
tech Sabbaths.
Yeah, okay.
And tech Sabbaths are important. I think that is something that is getting more popular. But more about this history of why do we use the word lazy? Why do we describe rest as a lazy act? Why and how do we kind of liberate ourselves from that feeling and get away from this hyper-productivity? And
the author's a pretty interesting person, too.
Yes. Devin Bruce is a trans man. He got a PhD and very young and burned out pretty soon after. And through that experience of being sick for around 2 years straight, realized that productivity was slowly killing him and was leading to feeling needing to be, honestly having a need to constantly feeling like they had to be an activist every day, that if they didn't do enough, that they were responsible for not doing enough. And that if you don't take time for yourself, if you're not able to recharge, you will burn out. That this is a necessary practice to find ways to rest. So Laziness Does Not Exist, very good book for that.
Yeah. We'll be around for potluck. If you have any questions, just come up. This is something we're clearly really passionate about, and we're talking about the surface here. There's a lot to it. And thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Very intriguing, and I imagine a lot of us have a lot to say about the subject matter, and I imagine there have been some other passions ignited about the subject. So thank you, John and Allison. It is time to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, not light of truth, nor the community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Closing music.
So for those of you who may not be familiar with this song, visitors, whomever, we're going to sing it twice so you can listen to everybody else sing it the first time, and the second time you can join in. Stand up as you wish. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
My closing words have nothing to do with today's theme. I just happened to come across jewels in books that I love, and instead of, you're always telling people, you should read this book. I'll tell you what, I'll just read you a wonderful passage from it. It's from Jerome K. Jerome's 3 Men on a Boat, to say nothing of the Dog, which was a comic novel written in the 1880s, but this part is not comic. The day has been so full of fret and care, and our hearts have been so full of evil and bitter thoughts, and the world has seemed so hard and wrong to us. Then night, like some great loving mother, gently lays her hand upon our fevered head and turns our little tear-stained faces up to hers and smiles, and though she does not speak, we know what she would say, and lay our hot, flushed cheek against her bosom, and the pain is gone. Sometimes our pain is very deep and real, and we stand before her very silent, because there is no language for our pain, only a moan. Night's heart is full of pity for us. She cannot ease our aching. She takes our hand in hers, and the little world grows very small and very far away beneath us. And borne on her dark wings, we pass for a moment into a mightier presence than her own. And in the wondrous light of that great presence, all human life lies before us like a book, and we know that pain and sorrow are but angels of God. Lori, I bet you have something to say about potluck. Postlude. Thank you.
So we're having a potluck today,